The first episode of performing Salah on time was very nice. However, I have a couple of questions regarding the episode. Can you please tell me the name of the scholar that was mentioned as the teacher of Ayatollah Behjat? Also, I am trying to pray my Salah on time. However, I have heard that if a family member, like your husband, needs something, like for example, it's lunch or dinner time, that you should attend to their needs before praying. Is that correctly? Also, I have heard that there is a window of time where Salah is still considered to be on time, even if it's not exactly after the call to prayer.
Regarding the first question, the teacher of Atatollah Behjat is Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Qadhi, who is buried in Wadi Salam cemetery in Najaf. As for the second question, I must say that the first prayer or on-time salat or punctual salat always has priority over everything else except in special circumstances. Therefore, the punctual salat, saying it on time, should never be delayed unless there is a high priority. For example, if the person is sick and cannot pray, and he knows that if he waits, for example, he will feel better in another hour. Or for example, the person who wants to pray on time has to take care of his ill person. There's another person who is ill in his house, and he has to care of her, and that patient needs him badly at that moment, and he cannot say the salat at that moment, and he has to care for the person. So in this case, he prays a little late, no problem. Determining the priority and recognizing it is the responsibility of the person himself. You should see if the thing for which you are delaying the prayer is very important or not. Furthermore, if you are saying salat and something serious, risky, or dangerous is going to happen to you or to your kids, for example, it's allowed for you to break your salat and leave it also. So everything depends on the situation. But you shall not let other issues penetrate your salat time and leave it aside. The most important thing is the salat time. It shall not be typical for you to always pay attention to other things, and give the second priority to salat. So, gathering between the two, when they contradict, when they meet each other, punctual salat and saying it on time and caring for the affairs of the other people. For sure, salat has the higher priority. But in some situations, it's allowed to postpone it to another time and delayance. The following points should be taken into account regarding the specific time and virtue time of prayers, which is called waqtul ikhtisasi or waqtul fadila for the salats. The special time is the time when only the special prayer and salat should be offered, and no other prayer can be offered at that time. For example, it is not possible to offer the Asr prayer during the special time of the noon prayer, or vice versa. The second point is that depending on different times in different countries, these times may change. So the main criterion in countries where the sunrise and sunset occur on the same day, the special time or the time of virtue is the possession of the sun. But since it is not possible for everyone to see the sun and determine the exact time of sunrise and sunset, especially in modern world, where there are tall buildings and skyscrapers, for example, usually in many countries, some Muslims determine the exact time of morning prayer noon and afternoon prayer, Salat al-Maghrib and Salat al-Isha, and use software and applications, and they inform these times to people in their own countries and place of residence. Therefore, the best way is to refer to these centers and these special softwares or applications. If you do not have access to these things, I will tell you, for example, the criteria for the virtue and the specific time of Salat in Iran. And if the time between prayers in your country is the same as Iran, you can act accordingly. Now let's talk about the Salat times, the virtue time and the specific time, special time. The virtue of the morning prayer, the special time for that, is that near the morning call to prayer, which is adhan, a light rises from the east, which is called false dawn, Fajr al-Kadhib. When this dawn becomes clear and broad, it is the second Fajr, or the true Fajr, Fajr al-Sadiq, and it is the beginning of the Fajr prayer time, Salat al-Fajr. When the sun rises from the horizon, the Qadha prayer is performed. It is better to perform the prayer before the sky is becoming clear. The dedicated time for Salat al-Dhuhr or noon prayer is from the beginning of the noon prayer equal to 1 full rak'ah salat. At this time, it is not permissible to perform Asr prayer. The virtue time of Zuhr prayer lasts from the Zuhr adhan until 1 hour and 40 minutes, about the Dhuhr azan. Dedicated evening prayer time or Asr prayer time. At the end of Asr prayer time, close to Maghrib, the amount of praying of 4 rak'ah salat is the special time of Asr prayer. At this time, it is not permissible to perform noon prayer. The virtue time of Salat al-Asr, the virtue time of Salat al-Asr starts 2 hours and 50 minutes after the Dhuhr azan and lasts for 42 minutes. As for Maghrib time, from the beginning of Maghrib time, the amount of praying a 3 rak'ah salat is dedicated time for Maghrib salat. It is not permissible to perform Isha prayer during this special time. The virtuous time for Salat al-Maghrib lasts for 41 minutes from Maghrib adhan. And the dedicated Isha prayer time, dedicated time for Salat al-Isha, it is as much as praying a 4 rak'ah salat at the end of Isha prayer time, which is midnight. It is the dedicated time for Isha prayer. And the last is the virtuous time for Isha salat. The time of virtue of Isha salat starts 51 minutes after Maghrib adhan and lasts until 3 hours and 10 minutes. If a person has not prayed the Isha prayer until midnight, he should perform it before the Fajr prayer, and his prayer is ada, not qadha. So if you have not said your Salat al-Isha before Fajr time, you shall not do the niyyah and have the niyyah of qadha, but you have to have the intention of the complete and ada intention.
I am on your group Better Life with Salah. I have a few questions regarding Salat. What is the time of Fadilat al-Asr and Isha? Where do we have the times of Fadila? In which book or website can I find this information? I heard about a year back that saying the niyyah for Salah, your intention, in words is makruh. May I know the reason behind this and the benefits of not saying your niyyah in words? My last question. Is it true that it is better to pray our salah separately 5 times than praying it 3 times combining it?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As for question number one, the fadila or the preferred time for Asr Salat starts when the shadow of an object who is interred vertically on earth and is called shakhis becomes equal to its actual length, and it lasts until the sun begins to turn yellow. The fadila for Isha Salat starts after the twilight, or Shafaq al-Abyad, disappears, which is approximately 1 hour and 20 minutes after sunset. These fazila times are mentioned in various Islamic sources, including books of fiqh, Islamic jurisprudence, and websites that provide prayer timetables. However, the timings based on different times in different countries may vary. Some reliable sources, however, for finding detailed information on prayer times include local mosques, Islamic centers, or reputable Islamic websites that provide accurate and verified timetables based on astronomical calculations. As for the question number two, the issue of uttering the niyyah or the intention for salat aloud is a matter of scholarly difference. Some scholars consider it permissible to express the niyyah verbally, while others consider it makruh, which means disliked or unnecessary. The rationale behind considering it makruh is that the intention is an act of the heart and mind, and it does not require verbal expression. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did not explicitly mention the requirement of verbalizing the intention for salat. Instead, it is recommended to have the intention in the heart, along with the understanding and consciousness of performing the specific prayer. By avoiding verbalizing the intention, one can focus more on the internal aspect of worship and maintain a sense of sincerity. Regarding question number three, it is more beneficial to offer the 5 obligatory prayers individually at their prescribed times, rather than combining them. Each prayer has its own specific reward and significance, and there is a wisdom behind their separate timings. Offering salat 5 times a day provides regular intervals for remembrance of Allah, spiritual rejuvenation, and seeking forgiveness. It helps in establishing a stronger connection with Allah throughout the day and reinforces the commitment to worship. Combining prayers is allowed in certain circumstances, such as travel or genuine reasons that make it difficult to offer prayers individually. However, it is generally recommended to perform each prayer at its appointed time to fully benefit from the blessings and rewards associated with it. The practice of combining prayers should be limited to the situations where it is genuinely necessary and not made into a regular habit without valid reasons.
I have 2 questions regarding a better life with Salah episode 1. What is the best thing to do if the time of Salah is a bit earlier than the prayer in congregation in the masjid? Should I pray the Salah earlier or wait for the prayer in congregation? My second question is, I am studying in the university and there are no proper facilities to pray the Salah there, so I have to wait until my lectures are completed and then pray the Salah. What should I do?
Regarding question number one, we shall say if the time of the salat is a little bit earlier than the jama'ah happening in the masjid, it is generally recommended to pray the salat at its earliest time, rather than waiting for the jama'ah. The principle in Islam is to perform the salat as soon as its prescribed time begins. However, if you have the opportunity to pray with the congregation in the masjid without delaying the salat beyond its permissible time, it is preferable to join the Jama'ah. And if you are studying at a university and there are no proper facilities to pray the Salat, you should strive to find a suitable and private place where you can offer your prayers there. Then here are a few suggestions I can give to you. Look for a designated prayer room or a multi-faith room on campus. Many universities have such facilities to cater to a student's religious needs. Or speak with the administration or the student services office at your university and request them to provide a space for prayer or improve the existing facilities. Or if there is a Muslim Students Association or a similar organization on campus, reach out to them for assistance. They might be able to guide you to a suitable prayer area or help advocate for better prayer facilities. You can also consider utilizing nearby mosques or Islamic centers outside of campus for your daily prayers. If there are any within a reasonable distance, you can plan your schedule accordingly to attend the congregational prayers there. You can also, if none of the above options are feasible, find a quiet and scheduled area where you can maintain your privacy during prayer. It could be an empty classroom, a corner in the library, or any other suitable place that allows you to fulfill your religious obligations. Remember that Islam emphasizes the importance of establishing regular prayer, and sincere effort is rewarded. Therefore, do your best to find a suitable place to pray, and if circumstances are beyond your control, you can still perform your prayers in the best way possible given the situation.
I am a member of a Better Life with Salah group. I have 10 years of missed prayers, also Salat al-Qada. Is there any particular way or any short way to offer them? Or do I have to pray each of them individually?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah, dear respected sister or brother. As for your question, we shall say that prayer is an important duty of the Muslims which must be performed on time. But if this does not happen for any reason, it does not fall from the shoulders of the prayer and it must be fulfilled. One of our problems is the accumulation of qadha prayers, which makes it heavy on our shoulders and we carry this weight with us. Then it is possible to increase the desire to do this with planning and a few simple methods to reduce the burden on your shoulders and pay this spiritual debt. In this word, we suggest some ways to say your qadha and missed prayers more easily. The first solution is this: to consider the qadha prayer important first. Sometimes you can see some people, Muslims, they consider it as unimportant. No, it is really important. If we missed one salat time and one salat, then we have to say it again. We have to do it and do a recap and compensate it in the form of qadha. Then you can have the necessary motivation and energy to perform your qadha prayers when the missed prayers become important to you. Consider the qadha prayer and salat as an important debt that you must settle as soon as possible. Not an extracurricular activity that you can do whenever you feel like it. Yeah, it's not an extracurricular activity that you can do whenever you feel like it. It's a must, it's a debt that you have to pay it off. So for the first start, strengthen your motivation. Pilgrimage places are the best possible places also to perform qadha prayers if that is available in your country. Attending places of pilgrimage increases our desire to pray. When you're in these places, you can fill a part of your spiritual activity by saying qadha prayer. Praying in places of pilgrimages is less tiring because the desire to pray there is more spontaneous. To say the qadha prayers and salats, local imam zadas or mosques are the best options to visit there whenever possible and perform the part of the prayer that you are responsible for. The other beneficial instruction is to read your salats briefly, but in large numbers. It is true that we should observe the order and manners of salat in qadha prayers, but it is also possible to reduce the time of doing it by reducing the azkar and mustahabbat, and instead praying more number of prayers. So as much as possible, while performing the correct words of the prayer and pronunciation of the words of the salat correctly, you can pray briefly but in large numbers. You can shorten the tasbihat al-arba from 3 to 1. You can shorten the salam of your salat. Instead of saying the 3 salams, Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabiyyu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alayna wa ala ibadillahi as-salihin. Assalamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To one of them. The last part, you can only say Assalamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You can also shorten your qunut to only one salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad in the second rak'ah before ruku'. This solution is really efficient. The other one is to read the salats collectively. One of the rituals that the elders used to do when they gathered together was to read different mustahab prayers as well as qadha khani prayers. Collectively performing a single action reduces its difficulty and gives sweetness to that action. So you should also suggest to your friends to pray qadha prayers and make a date together. The other solution is to read along with the daily prayers. Many people believe that it is easier for them to perform qadha prayer along with the daily prayers, and it is not necessary to have a separate time for qadha salats. You can say the same prayer in every time of the daily prayer with the intention of qadha, or you can say the very salat that has become more qadha, that has become qadha more than the other salats, right after that very salat that you have to say it as a wajib salat. Such as for somebody, his dhuhr qadhas are more than any other salat. Then you can just say your salats that are qadha in dhuhr right after salat al-dhuhr, between salat al-dhuhr and asr. And the last solution also, which is important, is to make qadha khani prayer a gift of your free time. Many times we feel overwhelmed and bored. We like to do something that makes us feel better and saves us from boredom. Some choose to pray, eat, or even take a walk. But it must be said that reading or saying qadha prayer may be a very good alternative for these times, and it will definitely give you a very good feeling of lightness. So give yourself this gift in your free time, even if it is with a few rak'ahs, to compensate a part of your debt. There's no better feeling than paying off and settling our outstanding debts. Salat is not an exception. Salat is also a debt on our shoulder, the qadha salats. May Allah give you and everybody tawfiq to compensate the missed salats as soon as possible, inshallah.
I have a question regarding my spirituality. For the last 2 years, I'm having problems with my prayers and my spirituality in general. I started having doubts in my prayer. Now I have developed a habit of postponing my prayers. I will be very thankful if you have any advice for me.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah, dear respected sister or brother. One of the problems that many people in the societies might face in prayers is doubt in some cases, the root of which is the absence of heart and attention in salat and prayers. Now, what is the practical solution to this problem? 3 steps should be taken to clear the doubt in the prayer rak'ahs. Number 1, consider prayer as important. By asking some questions, we understand the necessity of the above article. Have you ever asked yourself why people do not hesitate to buy home appliances? They don't have any doubts about them? Or why does he bring his child to school on time? Or why does he show up at work on time? When driving, he considers the centimeter distance between the 2 cars, his car and the car at the front, and etc. In response, 1 sentence should be said to these points and questions. We don't hesitate. We don't feel dubious and doubtful to any other issues above mentioned because we care about all of them more than any other thing. When we care about something, we don't have any doubt. We don't have any hesitation. When something is very important for us, we try to do it carefully, without any hesitation, without any doubts or unforgetfulness. Therefore, we should consider prayer as important and take it seriously. The things that God has given us as an order to reach perfection, and we should know that God's order is no less than the other of a school principle. And on the other hand, we should understand that Salat has no benefit for God. If it is obligatory, it is for the benefit of man himself. Until we realize the importance that acceptance of all our actions is subject to prayer, and the only way to avoid the sin of prayer, the first step has not been taken. So try to make Salat great in your mind, its status, its dignity. Think about Salat a lot. So try to make the highest priority and give the highest priority to Salat. This must solve the problem, inshallah. However, sometimes the root of doubt in prayer is OCR, which is a more serious problem than doubt and must be treated in a special way. Therefore, you should see what is the root of this problem. Is the root of the problem in considering prayer to be unimportant compared to our other works? Or is it excessive attention and worry about the recitation and actions of prayer, which leads to OCR, for example? Here, we base it on no OCR. Inshallah, there is no OCR about you and about any other. However, if there is OCR, no problem. It's still solvable, There should be no worries about that either. The most important problem for the people is not the problem. The most important problem shall be the stress that people have about the problem. All the problems have solutions and are solvable. So, you shall just check yourself that it is related to the unimportant look to Salat, or the excessive attention and worry about the recitations, which leads to OCR. Of course, there may be other problems that you should seek to solve as well, physical, familial, or even economical problems. However, a person should try not to magnify the problems for himself in his mind and in his heart. always consider the problems to be small so that the important issues of your life, such as Salat, are not affected by them. The second solution is that to seek aversion from the devil or seek refuge to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from shaitan when entering the prayer. We must be sure that the doubt is due to the lack of presence of the heart in prayers. And the creation of doubt is from shaitan and the enemy of the prayer, who is the enemy of the prayer. We should consider it necessary to dislike him. When in doubt, for example, as the third solution, try to find a strong suspicion on one side. And in other words, we are faced with 4 mental forms during the prayers. Along with examples of these 4 forms are certainty. It is that when we know 100% we are in the 4th rak'ah of prayer or the other rak'ah, for example. So this is called certainty. In 4 rak'ah salat, you know exactly in which rak'ah you are now. This is called certainty or yaqeen. The second scenario is that you suspect. Then you give a strong possibility that you will be in the 4th rak'ah. You're not absolutely sure, but you give a strong possibility. And you give a weak possibility. You will be in the 4th rak'ah or the 3rd rak'ah, for example. This is against suspicion. And the 4th scenario is that called doubt, that you might be in this position, whether it is the 3rd or 4th rak'ah, and you give a 50% probability for each one. 50% the 3rd rak'ah, 50% the 4th rak'ah. This is called shak. If you're in the 1st to 3rd cases, it is clear that the duty is to be acted upon with certainty or strong probability. But in the 4th case, a person must try to suspect one side. And this is possible in prayer with a little thought, for example. In the above example, if a person is a little bit thoughtful and he is able to think a little bit about the different sides, his mind will be led to one side, to 3 or 4 rak'ah. And this amount is enough for his prayer to be correct. This means that you're amid salat, saying salat, and you suddenly fall into doubt and shak. Then try to be silent and focused and think about this doubt and shak. When you're thinking, your thoughts might lead to one direction. It can be either 3 rak'ah or 4 rak'ah. Try to take it. As soon as you think that you were on the 3rd rak'ah, try to take it. You shall not continue with your shak and say, no, it is, for example, the 4 rak'ah. Examples for practical solutions are that a few moments before the prayer, sit in a quiet place, for example, and make yourself busy with zikr and start the prayer with A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. This is one practical solution. And try to forget about the problems, to be focused. And the place shall be quiet, You have to prepare such a situation for yourself. Also, try to always pray first, like on time, and say it correctly. Try it. You have to try it. And sometimes you need to say your salat quickly, quicker than before. If you are not in a good mood, and if you think that you will be doubtful during salat, and try to reduce the recommended things between the prayers. For example, when you're tired, recite the tasbihat al-arba'a only once. And finally, if you do not take those 3 steps, then you will be forced to learn the rules of shakiyat of salat. I mean that if the instructions I told you were not applicable, try to learn the rules of shakkiyat of salat. That's whenever you had the shak and doubtful, you were about salat. What is the instruction for that? So after the salat is finished, you can follow those rules. Or you can also use the special turba of shakkiyat and try to use them. And there's a number on that turba, a special number, that whenever you put your sajda, your forehead on the sajda, then it shows the number of the very rak'ah. So whenever you were doubtful about the rak'ah, you can look at that number and you can make sure that this is the very number of your salat. You have to use this also at the final solution, because breaking the salat is not allowed and is not permissible. And last but not the least, don't worry about this. Inshallah ta'ala, Allah will help you, and you with the self-confidence try to solve your issue and try to practice the instructions I told you. Inshallah, it will be solved.